Good morning.
Morning. So today we are going to see the Renaissance. Um, the Renaissance is one of the biggest culture movement in history between 15th and 17th century. The Renaissance happened in literature, music, art, architecture, and all kinds of intelligence. So let's see how it began first. So we learned Middle Age in the last meeting. During Middle Ages, the church had taught that mankind was not worthless in the eyes of God. So this era is called the Dark Ages, and all kinds of culture and art were oppressed by the church. And artists were considered skilled crafts workers during this Middle Age. And for the resistance of the Middle Age, the Renaissance came into the world. So the word Renaissance means rebirth, and it refers to the revival of interest in ancient Greek and ancient Roman culture. That is one of the key characteristics of this period. Renaissance humanists believed in the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. So there are many of artistic techniques developed by the Renaissance masters. First one is perspective, so which is creating an implied space on two-dimensional surface. And chiaroscuro, which is modeling mass drawing technique based on lightness and darkness. And close observation of nature and the study of anatomy and theories of beauty and proportion. So these established painting, sculpture, mathematics. Artists were no longer mere craft workers. The Renaissance arose in Italy, and everyone, can you guess why the Renaissance began in Italy and why the Renaissance was in Italy the Renaissance in the Italy was the most powerful? Can you guess the reasons? There are three reasons. Any ideas? No.
Could one have something to do with it being like right next to Rome?
Mm-hmm. Maybe. What else? So look at the location. Where is it?
Rome.
Mm-hmm. Can you say again?
Rome.
Yeah. Let's see the regions. So the first reason is that Italy was the powerful city-states and which was engaged in extensive trade and banking had developed. So their economic system was stable. Through history, most of culture were flourished when they had stabilization of economy. So that is the first reason why the Renaissance began in Italy. And the second reason is the church. The church in Italy was an important patron of the arts. So it was centered in Italy as well. And the last reason is the ancient Rome. So Italians had long lived in the ruin of ancient Rome, and they viewed themselves as the direct descendants of the citizens of the earlier. So please remember the reasons, these three reasons, and why the Renaissance began in Italy.
So it was trade, the church, and what else?
And then the ancient Rome.
Ancient Rome. Okay.
Yes. Italy has the ancient Rome. So these three factors made that the early and the high Renaissance are developed in Italy. So now,
I'm sorry. Can
huh?
you go?
Anna, what did you say?
Can you go back?
Yep, of course. So
Thank
again, so the first reason is the powerful city-states with the trade banking, because they have enough money to develop their culture and art. And the church was the one of the most strong patron for the art in Italy. And the last one is the ancient Rome, because they had long lived in the ruin of ancient Rome, and they viewed themselves as the direct descendants of the citizens of the earlier. So that is the reasons.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. So these three factors made the early and the high Renaissance are developed in Italy. Now we will see the great masters of the Renaissance. So there are three masters. Can you guess who they are? I've mentioned several times before the midterm, and we saw their artworks as well. Can you guess the three Renaissance masters?
One could Da Vinci.
Yes, Da Vinci,
The other, I know the other.
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, yes. And one last one.
Raffaello.
Yay, Raphael, perfect. Very good. Yes, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Very good. So let's see the first master, Leonardo da Vinci. So Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, sculptor, poet, architect, engineer, scientist, musician, and all-round intellectual. Leonardo da Vinci is the artist who most embodies the term Renaissance man, and many people consider him to have been the greatest genius who ever lived. And he was possessed of a brilliant and incredible mind that accepted no limits. He was very interested in human body, like skeleton, muscles, organs, etc. He anatomized dead bodies to study skeletal system, muscle, and even organs and pregnancy. So this is one of the famous his painting, The Last Supper, and he depicted the consternation that occurred among the 12 apostles when Jesus announced that one of them would betray him. So Leonardo da Vinci used the perspective technique to show an implied space on the two-dimensional surface. So everyone, what kind of perspective did Leonardo da Vinci use in this painting?
Okay. Leaner.
Huh?
1 point perspective.
Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. Yes. It's now 1 point linear perspective. Very good. With the vanishing point on the center of the implied space. So this is a good perspective technique for compacting many objects in a limited space, like this. And these are sketches to study 1 point perspective by Leonardo da Vinci. You know, here and here, here's the vanishing point. And this is a drawing to show the 1 point perspective with the human body proportion. And what is that, everyone? Everyone knows
Mona
this
Lisa?
painting. Yes, Mona Lisa. Yeah. So this is Mona Lisa, which is an oil painting on a wood panel by Leonardo da Vinci. So probably the world's most famous painting. And everyone, look at this again. What kind of implied space did he use in this painting? Can you guess what it is?
What kind of what overture?
Perspective. You know, we learned, 1 point perspective, and the perspective, the linear perspective, and the next one was foreshortening, and the last one is atmospheric perspective. He used one of them. Really?
Aerial perspective.
Huh? Aerial perspective? Yes. Yeah. Atmospheric or aerial perspective. Yes. Very good. Thank you.
Aerial.
Yeah. So he used atmospheric perspective to show the distance by saturation, like this. And can you guess why this painting is so famous and why it is, historically important? Can you guess the reason why this painting is so important in the art history?
Is it oh, sorry. Is it because it kind of looks like a sketch of somebody, like he sketched an actual woman, but
Oh yeah, very close, very close. Yeah. So the reason is because the painting was one of the first portrait to depict the theater in front of an imaginary landscape. And Leonardo da Vinci was one of the first painters to use the aerial or atmospheric perspective. So behind her, a vast landscape recedes to icy mountain and winding path and the distance bridge give only the slightest indications of human presence. So Leonardo has chosen to place the horizon line not at the neck, but on a level with the eyes. So thus, linking the figure with the landscape and emphasizing the mysterious nature of the painting. Now let's move on to the next master of the Renaissance, Michelangelo. Michelangelo is beyond legend, and his name means Archangel Michael. He began serious work as an artist at the age of 13 and did not stop until death claimed him 76 years later. His equal may never be seen again, for only a particular time and place could have bred the genius of Michelangelo. So Michelangelo was Leonardo da Vinci's rival, and he began his career in Florence, but also worked in Rome. Michelangelo had established his reputation as a sculptor by the age of 25. The David statue is not a simple restatement of Greek art. He studied human anatomy and had dissected corpses. He translated his this knowledge into a figure that seems to be made of muscle and flesh and bone, though all in marble. So this is made by marble. And Michelangelo embarked on the masterpiece that has become his best known work, the ceiling frescoes of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican in Rome. He had been called to Rome by Pope Julius II, who wanted the artist to design his tomb, a large monument with numerous sculptures and paintings. So it has lots of holy stories. So let me share a video to see the painting close.
To decide the next pope.
And every surface of this space is decorated, from the beautiful mosaics on the floor. The walls are painted with frescoes by early Renaissance artists.
Isn't it amazing? He painted all this wall fresco paintings, all the walls and the ceilings. Michelangelo did that.
The wall behind the altar was painted by Michelangelo later in his life, and then of course the ceiling.
And everybody is looking up. Their necks are craned, and of course it's magnificent. We're here in the late afternoon on a day in early July. The light is diffuse, and it makes those frescoed figures feel so dimensional.
Everyone, look at this, the sculptures. These are not the actual, the column sculptures. These are paintings. Everything is painting here.
Sculpture.
And you can imagine what it was like when this was unveiled in 1512, after Michelangelo had worked on it for years, how different, how revolutionary Michelangelo's figures seemed.
Well, he was first and foremost a sculptor, and it wasn't actually until a relatively recent cleaning that we knew his brilliance as a colorist. But for him, line and drawing and the act of carving figures out of paint was primary. And you have this extraordinary ability to render both strength and elegance simultaneously.
They have a massiveness and a presence that is charismatic, but there's also a sense of elegance and ideal beauty. So let's describe what we're looking at.
Okay, probably the most important are the series of 9 scenes that move across the central panels.
And those are framed by a painted architectural framework that looks real. It doesn't look like paint. And we start with the creation of the world, God separating light from darkness.
I love that scene. This primordial God, light on one side of his body and the darkness of night on the other. This initial separation and division to create order in the universe.
And then we move through to the creation of Adam, the creation of Eve.
Well, the separation of the sexes.
And the creation of God's most perfect creature, human beings. And then the fall of human beings.
In a sense, the separation of good and evil.
Man and woman disobeying God, causing the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. And then the far end, by the entrance, we see the scenes of Noah.
So these are all scenes from the first book of the Bible, from the book of Genesis. And it's so interesting because, of course,
All right. So I need you to watch the rest of the part of this video after this meeting. How was that, everyone?
It's interesting. I'm just wondering how he reached to the ceiling.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It's so grandeur and elegant paintings. All right. So the sizzling frescoes we just saw in the video were an immediate success, and Michelangelo continued as a papal favorite. Pope Paul III encouraged the sculptor to work as an architect. In 1546, Paul named Michelangelo the official architect of the new St. Peter's, one of the four most important churches in Rome. So this is the basilica types of church. We learned it in the last class. So by the time he began work on the project, Michelangelo was an old man and well into his 70s and physically tired, but his creative vigor was undiminished. Michelangelo did not live to see his church finished. The magnificent central dome thus was complete after his death by another architect. So there is a video to see the beautiful church in Mudorum. So please watch it to see the inside and the outside of the church in detail. And now let's move on to the last master, Raphael. He was a slightly younger rival of Michelangelo, and his work is admired for its clarity of form, ease of composition, and visual achievement of the Neoplatonic ideal of human grandeur. Looks familiar with us, right? So this is Raphael's the most famous painting, the School of Athens. So this painting is in this new St. Peter's Church. We just watched the video, right? We just saw the building. Which was the Michelangelo's last work. So the nearly every great philosopher is present in the work, including the two main subjects here, located at the fresco's central vanishing point, Plato and his student Aristotle. So some of the ancient philosophers resemble Raphael's contemporaries. What do you mean, Imani? A review? It's not a review.
Okay, because I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Because I ended late ago.
Yeah, we're just learning the new chapter. So in one of his earliest works, Raphael painted three of the graces from classical mythology. And this painting is best known for the two winged angel at the very bottom of the composition. The Sistine Madonna is an oil painting that was commissioned in 1512 by Pope Julius II for the Church of San Sisto in Piacenza. And upon his completion in 1512, this rendering of Pope Julius II was unlike any previous papal portrait. Usually, popes were painted frontally or kneeling in profile, but the Pope was not frontally and not in profile. Also, exceptional was the facial expression, showing the subject lost in thought. And this oil painting was produced in 1505 in Venice. Madonna del Prado. It exemplifies a religious theme, and it depicts Mother Mary with Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. So in this painting, Mary is guarding the two lovely children. And compared to the previous two masters, Raphael's paintings are very soft and smooth, and it makes viewers feel comfortable to see. So scholars generally date the end of the High Renaissance in Italy to the death of Raphael in 1520. The various artistic trends that emerged, the one that has interested art historians most is known as Mannerism.
Say good morning. Good morning.
So the late Renaissance in Italy is called Mannerism. The word Mannerism comes from the Italian maniera, meaning style or stylishness. And it was originally used to suggest that these painters practiced an art of grace and sophistication. So later critics characterized Mannerism as a decadent reaction against the order and balance of the High Renaissance. So today, most scholars agree that Mannerism actually grew out of possibilities suggested by the work of High Renaissance artists, especially Michelangelo, whose influence on the next generation was enormous. So look at the left two images. These are from the Vatican, the fresco painting. So, so compared to other two masters, Michelangelo's painting style is a little bit more exaggerated. And now look at the right painting. So this is Mannerism painting from the late Renaissance. So it's pretty much persuasive that Mannerism grew out of Michelangelo's style, right? So compared to the art that came before it, works in late phase of the Renaissance are often depicted in Mannerism, which tends to feature compositions that are more chaotic, emphasize movement, and possesses greater emotional intensity. The successes of the High Renaissance could not be rivaled. Like Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo were thought to have achieved perfection in the arts, and artists were faced with the predicament of where to go from there. In reaction, instead of harmony, many artworks stressed dissonance. So distortion and disproportion were intentionally used to emphasize certain anatomical features and themes. So rather than mathematically precise depictions, artists created ambiguous spaces with multiple focal points. And the Renaissance became widespread in North Europe. So there is a video about the Renaissance in the North Europe in Moodle Room. Please watch it to see diverse and beautiful Renaissance work of art. So I hope you enjoy to see the Renaissance masters' beautiful works through this chapter. And we have a discussion today related to this topic. So this is today's topic. So everyone, I need you to go to the discussion 10.2 to see today's topic, and you will see the video links below in this discussion page. And I need you to watch all of them after this meeting. So these are all about the three masters' work of art. And this is the topic. So there are three masters of the High Renaissance. We just learned Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. And compare these three masters' work styles and write which artist's work your preference. Any question about this, today's topic? And choose one of the, your favorite master's works, and then tell us why you love it. No question about this discussion?